It seems like every week we get something new, right? And at some point you get a little bit fatigued about it, but it's still important that we hear what's happening with where we are with COVID. So you've likely heard about this Delta variant, and that's really what we'd like to address very briefly this morning. It's obviously become more the common cause of new COVID-19 cases, and it's been accelerating across the South. People infected with this particular variant are more than 2 times as likely to be admitted to the hospital. They're more than 4 times as likely to be treated in the intensive care unit, and they're nearly 2 times more likely to die from COVID-19 compared to the earlier versions of COVID. This particular variant has 2 important mutations in the spike protein, which is what we talked about, I think, last year at some point, which allows this virus to penetrate and infect healthy cells. Now, you've likely been hearing that the Delta variant is more infectious than the original COVID infections that we talked about last year. Infected people are shedding 1,000 times more of the virus. And if they come into contact with another person, that person will in turn be exposed to a much higher infectious dose. So people are becoming contagious more quickly after exposure, giving them more of an opportunity to infect others. And there's a lot more of the virus, and there's a lot more of the virus sooner. And if there's more of the virus around, it's going to be easier to spread. People are getting sicker quicker, especially younger people. Typically, people who are vaccinated are either asymptomatic, meaning they have no symptoms, or have very mild symptoms if they contact or contract this particular variant. And their symptoms are more like that of the common cold, such as a cough, fever, headache. They may have the loss of smell. And with this variant, they may even experience a runny nose or sore throat. We've made a lot of progress in easing the restrictions from the pandemic, but this particular wave is creating a setback in easing a lot of those. To combat this new wave, we need to focus on 2 things. The first thing we need to do is to get more people vaccinated. Now, only about 44.5% of South Carolinians are completely vaccinated. About 51% have received at least 1 dose. Everyone at this point over the age of 12 should be vaccinated to help protect those family members that can't, such as the younger children. Especially with school starting up soon, this is a perfect week to make that initial visit. It's a free vaccine, and some of the concerns that people have is that, is it safe, and are there long-term complications? Well, yes, it is safe. Number 2, long-term complications, well, vaccines don't work that way. Vaccines, if there are going to be any side effects, they happen quickly. They happen within the first month or 2, if at all. We've had this particular vaccine now in studies since last April is when they started trials on this particular vaccine. So the long-term concerns that people have don't exist. And so we want to just encourage you to know that these vaccines work even against the Delta variant. According to data from the CDC on fully vaccinated Americans, only 1 in 1,000 people who've been completely vaccinated can get the coronavirus. 4 in 100,000 have been hospitalized, and only 10 in 1 million have died from the coronavirus. Now, there's nothing that's 100%, but most patients who are hospitalized are those people who have not received vaccinations. And one of the concerns that people have is, well, I missed my 2nd dose. That's okay. If it's been more than 21 or 28 days, take the trip, make the call to get the 2nd dose. And the second thing that we need to do before I take my seat is to follow the CDC guidelines on the use of masks. We got very excited about not having to wear the mask, especially if you've been vaccinated. But according to the CDC now, all Americans, whether you've been vaccinated or not, should be wearing a mask indoors. And we'll likely see recommendations from our own staff here in the church regarding that. Now, if you're in a crowded outdoor setting, even if you're vaccinated, you still may choose to wear a mask as well. But I just want to remind you all that the virus itself can have short-term and long-term effects. Some we know about, some we don't. You don't want to get COVID if you can avoid it. And the 2 ways that we know that we can avoid it right now is the vaccine and masking, all right? So please protect yourself, protect your family, protect your community. It's affecting us, and we can't ignore it and pretend that it doesn't exist. Thank you.